Excellent.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you a volume control solution for your arcade. Maybe you have a level up and you can't control the volume from the outside. You have to go back into your amplifier and turn the volume control knob. Or maybe you have a 1-up and you have the same setup with an amplifier, but you don't want to go around the back. So here's a solution, a quick solution, how you can control the volume from the outside with what are one-key hotkey buttons running through Retroarch and controlling the input volume decibel level. So what I did here is, you can see this game right now and kind of hear it. I can turn it up. And I can turn it down. And I'm just using a one-button key that's connected to my encoder. On the level up, there's 4 buttons up here that are pretty much useless. You're not going to use them in game as an R2 or an L2 or anything, or an R3 or an L3. So you have these 4 buttons up here that you really don't have anything to use them for. So what I did is set them up as 1-button hotkeys. First one, I have the game list menu. You hit it once, and it'll take you back to your game list. I have a 1-button Retroarch. Takes me to the Retroarch menu. And then, as you saw before, I have volume down, volume up. Now you can only control it so much. It only goes up to, I think, 12 positive decibel, but that's plenty if you set your volume at a reasonable level, and then you just need to manipulate it down and up a little bit, because especially if you're using MAME, a lot of the MAME games have different volume outputs when you first start them. Well, what I did was I adjusted the Retroarch config files in certain folders to make this work. Now you can probably go into Retroarch and go into the inputs and the hotkeys and all that stuff. I tried that, it really didn't work. I got all messed up, so I just went right into the Retroarch config files, and I'll show you which ones I updated in order to get this to work. Now you're going to go ahead and set up your controllers the same way you always do through the Retroarch config menu, and you can set a hotkey there, because what we're going to do is we're going to remove that from the configuration setting. Now if you want to leave it and use the button at the same time to control volume and these hotkeys, you can still use your select button and these and do it that way. I didn't want to do all that. I just want to hit it real quick. I only need 1 button. I don't have controllers and a whole bunch of other hotkeys that I need, so I just used 1 button for the hotkey. Now what I did was update 3 Retroarch config files. I don't know which ones override each other, and maybe I didn't need to change them all, but I just changed them all to be consistent, and it seemed to work best that way. We're going to find those files in opt, RetroPie, configs, and the first one we're going to do is in the all menu. Once you're in the all menu, you're going to look at your Retroarch joypads config file. I'm going to take this file and I'm going to copy it and move it to my desktop. Over here, I'm going to open it with Notepad++. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all the hotkey numbers that I set in here. Now, you're not going to have these in yours right now, because this is what I added. An input exit emulator button, input menu toggle button, which is Retroarch, input volume down button, and input volume up button. Now a key point here is when you set up your buttons with your encoder, you need, in this instance, you have 12 buttons. So you got 6 here, 2 here, and 4 here. Set them up all for player 1. That's what you want to do. Just set them up all under your first player encoder, so you have 12 buttons, and your encoder should have 12 slots. It shouldn't be a problem. And what I did when I did my config, obviously, is right here is L2, R2, L3, R3. So the 4 up here are the L2s and the L3s and the R2s and the R3s. Now the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find your hotkey. You won't see it in my file because I already erased it. I got rid of the hotkey. The next thing you're going to do is look for the number that is associated with the button that you want to use as a hotkey. So again, I said I used L2 and R2 for my menu toggle and exit to exit emulator button. So right here you can see 6 is L2, R2 is 8. So I added this text right here, input exit emulator equals button 6, and input menu toggle button equals 8. Make sure you put the spaces in correctly and set it up exactly like that. Down here, my L3 is 5 and my R3 is 11. You can see that right here. And so I added input volume down, and make sure it's button BTN here. Make sure you do input volume down button and input volume up button, and I associated 11 and 5. Once you do that, you're going to save it, and then you're going to overwrite it into the same folder right over here. So you just drag it and replace. You might have to do some permissions updating in order to get that to override. And the next one we're going to update is the opt retropie configs all retroarch config file, which is right here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to copy and paste it to the desktop. And you may just want to save a copy of the originals in some other directory just in case you mess it up. You always want to save an original so you can go back to it. We're going to open it up with Notepad++. And down here, we're going to find those same input commands that we're using on our encoder. And what you can do is just use Control F and then find with a word that is associated with the command. So I just put in volume and hit next a few times. And basically right here, I got to my input volume down button. Make sure it's the BTN here. And the input volume up button, the BTN. And you're going to want to change this to 5 and 11. Then you're going to save and overwrite. Now you can do the same with the other commands. I'm not even sure if you need to do this because I think the original controller setup, the controller config will make it work, but you can also do it with the input exit emulator and the other hotkey function that we used as well. So again, save and overwrite. And then the other one we're going to do is the arcade retroarch config. So we'll take that, copy to desktop, and we're going to do the same thing here. You're going to find those volume BTN commands and you're going to change it to the button that you used in your original encoder config file. Hey, pretty much that's it, guys. So once you do that, you can use your hotkeys, you can turn it up, you can bother the wife with it by turning it loud, and then you can turn it down. Hey, thanks for watching the Rexer Show. As always, don't forget to subscribe and get the notifications if you want to see more on this. Thanks for watching.